Hey everyone, welcome to the best seat in the house. My name is Jonathan Christan and I am your host for this show. I'm really excited about this episode. We have a good friend of mine, Brian Clancy, who is currently the drummer for award-winning Christian band We Are Messengers. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about tour, life on the road, life in the bus, what brought him to Nashville, how he got to where he is today in his career, and just a few tips and tricks and just some advice that he can share with you guys in your own personal walk in your career. So join me in my conversation with Brian. All right. Well, Brian, welcome to the podcast.
What's up, bro?
Dude, how are you?
I'm good. How
You
about
good?
you?
I'm doing great. I'm actually really tired. I was in Wilmington, North Carolina with my girlfriend this past weekend.
Nice.
For one of her friends' birthdays. They had they rented a beach house, and I'd never been over there, so we spent the weekend at the beach. Anyways, I had a 10-hour drive back today, and then immediately came here. So I'm really tired,
Dude.
but I'm doing well.
I saw your story this morning.
Yeah.
I didn't know if you were still there.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait,
You're like, is he
are
gonna
we
be
still
there?
doing this?
Yeah. That's why I made sure to text you yesterday and say, hey, are we still good? Just to make sure if you saw that, you'd be like, oh, what's going on? But yeah,
I don't even know what the day is, so
dude,
it's fine.
That's how it goes sometimes. Well, welcome, man. I'm glad to have you here on this podcast finally.
Dude, I'm stoked and honored that you asked me to do it.
Of
So
course.
thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Have you ever done anything like this before?
No.
Video stuff, other than playing behind the kit or?
Just that, I hate being in front of cameras.
Same.
I never talked to one. And no.
Yeah, it's a decision that I didn't really want to make. I didn't want to go this route at first because I hate being on camera if I'm not playing.
Yeah.
So I think this is cool because I think it works out because for a lot of us drummers, we're so used to being behind the kit, especially in a church environment if we're in like the plexiglass drum cage or whatever. So this gives all of us, it kind of forces us out of our comfort zone to be on camera and out in the front. But yeah, so tell me a little bit for any listeners that don't know who you are, don't really know much about your career, your story. Tell me where you're originally from, when you moved here to Nashville, and what you're currently doing as far as your career is concerned.
Cool. So I was born in Philly, raised in Jersey for 20 years of my life. I got accepted into a college coming out of high school and ended up deferring. I knew I didn't want to go.
Yeah.
And, eventually my parents were like, hey, what you doing with your life?
That's how it goes.
So I pretty much was getting the boot. And then one day I stumbled across this ad on Facebook for Dark Horse Studios in Franklin, Tennessee for their audio engineering program. And at the time, I hadn't really done a whole lot audio-wise, but it was something I was interested in.
Yeah.
So I was just like, you know what? I would love to learn this side of music, and I was just like, I want to give this a shot. Didn't know anybody.
Yeah.
The day that I moved here, it was like 70 degrees in February, of all things. Typical Nashville.
Yeah.
My dad drove with me, and literally the next day, I had to drop him off at the airport, and I'm alone.
Wow.
Like 1,200
Just
miles
like
away
that.
from home. Yeah.
Wow.
So I go to Dark Horse, do their program, graduate, and I end up interning at the studio for probably like a year or so, which was cool. And then I just decided to go out on my own and try to make a thing for myself under my own name. So did a bunch of home studio stuff. Just ended up, actually, it's funny. The guy behind all of this, his name is Tom Golly.
Shout out Tom Golly.
Tom, and I didn't even know I was coming here today. He gave me my first shot, so I ended up playing for Tom.
Sweet. Nice.
And then, gosh, what happened after that? Just a lot of back and forth, That's the thing about the music industry is nothing is certain.
Very true.
You're always in limbo.
That's very true.
So the now I play for a band called We Are Messengers. How that all happened is I was out on a show with Tom, and JJ Weeks was the headliner.
No way.
And their front of house guy, Tyler Douglas, who now is We Are Messengers front of house guy, was there. And funny, I mean, we didn't even talk that day. I didn't even like shake his hand and say what's up.
Really?
Ended up finding him on Facebook later on. And we just got to chatting, and then over the years we kind of kept in touch. And this was what, 2019, 2020. He had asked me to fill in on a JJ gig, and just stuff didn't line up because I still had a normal 9 to 5 or whatever job at the time.
Okay.
And, you know, just couldn't justify taking that much time to, you know, not have money to pay bills and all that stuff.
I
So
hear that.
he had made a Facebook post asking for help for a tour, didn't know who it was for, didn't know what was involved. And I was like, hey, I'm available. And we got to talking, and somehow that happened. And I end up working for We Are Messengers for a couple months, and then the world ends because of COVID. So right as I get into the touring world, everything shuts down.
Wow.
And so during that time, I just, I was like, hey, I got a bunch of time at home. I have a house where I can play drums, and you know what? I'm just going to go to town making videos, a bunch of content, and just putting myself out there as much as I can. And fast forward, COVID, restrictions start lightening up, and we're out on the road on the Hits Deep tour, and I end up getting sick for like the last 4 shows. This is a theme with me in We Are Messengers. There's not a tour that goes by if I'm not sick.
Really?
Yeah, so they ended up keeping me home because they didn't want me out if I was sick. And I get a call from our front of house guy, and he's like, hey, could you send in an audition tape in like the next couple of days? I'm like, what? And so the old drummer Drew, he ended up parting ways, and I sent in the audition tapes, and the rest is kind of history.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I knew a lot of that, but as far as like that specific detail, I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we met when I first moved here, in May of 2020, and we linked up pretty much immediately after I moved here.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that you were only with We Are Messengers for like 2 months.
Yeah, pretty
when
much.
we met, like you had just come off the road for like.
Did you move to Tennessee yet, or were you still thinking about it?
When you were with
them? Because I
them?
might have. Well, no, the first time you came over, I feel like you hadn't moved.
No, I had moved.
You did?
Yeah, because I visited in 2019 for spring break.
Right.
We didn't know each other. No, we didn't. I mean, even on social media, we hadn't linked up yet.
Yeah.
And then leading up to my move, I can't remember if I was already following you or you already following me, or I can't remember exactly what happened. I do remember I moved here. Whether I reached out or you reached out, our first hang was like at Red Robin. Do you remember that?
Oh my gosh! Wow.
I just thought about that on the drive up here. Yeah, I thought the first time we hung out was doing a session.
I thought it was when you came over. Shoot.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. And then I was like, wait, no, I remember seeing him before that. And then I remember, I think I was at Guitar Center in the Brentwood area, and I remember you saying you lived down south in Columbia at the time.
Yeah.
And so I think I hit you up, and you're like, yeah, dude, let's meet up and let's get lunch or something. And it was COVID. It was like May or early June maybe, and so everything was still pretty much shut down, or at least like take like delivery or takeout only. Yeah. And Red Robin was the only place that like people were sitting in, like they were open.
Yeah.
So we sat there and like talked for 2 hours, which was hilarious.
Hey,
And that's how it worked out.
and now we're here.
And now we're here. And then that next week or two, you asked me to come by, bring my kit, and we'd get, just kind of mess around, get some tones, and the rest is history.
Yeah.
And yeah, so.
Those were fun times. I miss those days.
Dude, I was a great little setup.
That was a fun time.
Yeah.
Very fun time.
Great setup. Did you ever get noise complaints?
No, I've never. Outside of what I just told you before
yeah,
this.
Yeah. That's the
Never.
Wow. Dude, that's very rare too, which is awesome because I'll play in my basement and I won't get like the cops calling me or anything crazy, but I might get like a weird look from one of the neighbors, and it's like 3 p.m. Like I try to time it where like you would be gone, people would be at their day jobs from 9 to 5.
Yeah.
And I try not to play past 5. And still sometimes it's just like people are annoyed, 2 houses down or something. So it's really hard. But over there, I remember like you were chill with your neighbors. They were really cool. Like I felt like I was beating the crap out of the drums and playing really loud. And you played pretty much every day. And I never once heard an issue with your neighbors.
Yeah, it's crazy. You would think, especially before the Columbia house, because before that, Isaiah was living with me too. So you have 2 freaking drummers in a house just playing all the time. But, it's like you said, we kind of timed it out. So it's like, we're not going to play at 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Like, we got from noon to maybe 5 o'clock to get done what we're going to get done.
Exactly.
And that's how I've always been too.
I don't mean to interrupt, man. I'm sorry. But, dude, do you remember when you were at my house and we tried practicing with your kit upstairs? And your cymbals were like ear-piercingly loud. That my entire family left. Like we come down, I'm like, where'd everyone go? They all left because it was just ear-bleedingly loud. Do you remember that?
I didn't know that they left.
No, years later.
Everyone bounced, man. It was so funny.
Years later, and you feel bad about it.
And I didn't want to. I'm sorry to interrupt, but
no, you're fine.
Sorry,
that's fun.
Golly family. I apologize.
That's hilarious. But it's a thing, even for an artist or not just a normal, neighbor that's not in the industry, like it can be loud at times. We're very loud and it's annoying. And that's why I try to, be in a house and it's impossible to be in an apartment. Like in college, I was in an apartment and I had like an electric kit and I would still get noise complaints from my neighbor under me because the kick drum pedal would just like, it's like stomping on the ground.
Yeah.
And I'm like, come on, like I invest all this money in an electric kit so I can still play. And you're still, it's still too loud or, it's just, I guess, part of being a drummer.
It is a tough life,
It
y'all.
is a very tough
Very
life.
tough. We're not guitar players, okay? We can't just plug in a cable and be quiet. No. Sorry.
It's how it is. It's a blessing and a curse.
I will
guess.
say, though, I have gotten a compliment from a neighbor. I don't even know if it was a neighbor. Like, this lady literally just came up to our door one day. We were playing, obviously, and someone's knocking on the door. I thought it was a noise complaint. This lady's walking the street, like, by our house. And she's like, I just had to stop by. You guys sound awesome.
No way.
I'm like, okay, well, thank you. That's awesome.
Dude.
I'm stoked you enjoy it.
I would never expect that because if you get a knock or something, it's going to be a noise complaint. It's somebody upset. Like, hey, I work the night shift. I'm trying to sleep. Or, I'm just at home and you're too loud. Like, it's.
Yeah, and any of the houses I've lived in haven't been, like, super isolated where, like, there's no neighbor on each side or, like, spread out. Like, most of the places have been, like, right on top of each other.
Yeah.
I've had drums in the kitchen, drums in the garage, drums in the spare bedroom, drums in the living room, everything you can imagine. So I guess I've just been lucky. I don't know.
Dude. Well, that actually leads me to the next thing I wanted to talk about. So you had mentioned earlier going to school when you moved here in Franklin, and you went for audio engineering.
Yep.
I will say I was very, very impressed when we first linked up, at least when we had like our first session. like I saw your equipment. Well, actually, first, I think I followed you first because I remember you, Andrew Masters had released a video, a tour, um, of your studio setup. So Andrew is a guy.
Shout out, Andrew.
Shout out to Andrew Masters. So for the listeners, Andrew Masters is a guy here in Nashville that I guess right before COVID or during COVID, he just started taking. He has like a YouTube channel and he started taking his camera and just doing tours of people's home studios.
Yeah. That rendition of it. Apparently, he was doing videos well before moving to Nashville.
Okay.
Like if you dig deep into his channel, where was it? I think he was living in Arizona. He was doing stuff back then too. But the studio tour stuff, yeah, it didn't start till he moved to Nashville.
Which is such a sweet concept because, man, like I was, before I moved here, I knew I was going to move here and I was looking up tour vlogs and studio vlogs.
Yeah.
And his video came up and your studio tour was, he had just released it. And so I was like, okay, I'll check this out. And then that's how I stumbled across your stuff. And I was blown away because I was like, this guy has his kit in his dining room / living room, and the kitchen. He's right next to the kitchen. And then the control room is just on the other side of the wall in a spare bedroom. And it's a simple setup, but based off of your Instagram videos and stuff you had posted and his, tour, his studio tour vlog, like your tone sounded great and like the drum sounded awesome. So I was really excited to kind of just experience that. So when we first met up and had that session, I was really impressed. And then I found out, and it made so much sense that you had a background as far as like going to school in audio engineering. So like, I guess walk me through how that's played a part in that part of, because you even did a sample pack or a few sample packs at one point. You were recording some other drummers here in the area. And so how did that experience from school play a part in all of that audio engineering stuff versus if you didn't go to school? And like me, I have no experience with audio engineering. I just like look up YouTube videos and then hit record and play drums.
That's the beauty of today's day and age and technology. Look, Dark Horse was great. And I think I've talked about this with you before. Dark Horse was great. It gave me the knowledge that I needed to move forward. Did much come from that in terms of work or stuff long term? Not really. And at that time, especially when I was interning, there wasn't a whole lot coming through the studio. So in terms of getting on sessions, like I don't think I actually ever got on a session at Dark Horse outside of when I was actually in the class.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
And at the time, because there's the main building at Dark Horse, and then there's, I don't even think it exists anymore because now it's just the house. But the owner's house used to have another studio in it where producers would book it out for X amount of time. And at that time that I was there, it was Nick Raskolinix, who's done like Foo Fighters, Deftones, Paramore, Korn,
No way.
you name it. So like, it was literal torture because you would just go outside like on a break, and you just hear Korn playing, next door.
Dude,
just,
no way. That's so sick.
And I'm like, what am I doing here? So fast forward, I've spent countless hours on YouTube. Honestly, if I could go back, I probably wouldn't have gone to school for audio engineering. And I hope that doesn't come off as like a cocky, like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm better, blah, blah, blah. Because I'm not.
Yeah.
I literally learn something new every day.
Yeah.
And I go through stuff and change it all the time.
Yeah.
I would say what lifted me off the ground was that tour with Andrew. That really helped. And at the time, Andrew wasn't even that big. I don't even think he had 10,000 subscribers on YouTube. He might have been in the hundreds at that time.
Yeah, I think he had just started out. Like, he blew up, like, fast.
Yeah,
Like,
it was very early on. And I don't even remember how I stumbled across him. It might have been one of his drum videos because at the beginning, he was very, like, drum-oriented.
yeah, I remember
and, like,
that.
he was making a lot of content that I felt like a lot of people weren't making. And I was like, I hit him up one day. I'm just like, dude, I love what you're doing.
Mhm.
Like, I would love to meet you and just hang out. And somehow that ended up turning into a studio tour.
Yeah.
Because I think at the time I hit him up, we were out on the road. And so we were just going back and forth trying to figure out, when to make it happen. So there was that. And, during my time in Colombia, I felt like that's where I was most productive because I had everything there.
Yeah.
And I could do anything I wanted at any time pretty much.
Yeah.
So any time I had, I was in that studio working my butt off.
Yeah.
Maybe I didn't know exactly what I was doing at the time, but I was experimenting, trying different things. Just if you could see my YouTube and the amount of like courses I bought to try and learn stuff, it'd blow your mind.
Yeah.
But yeah. Sorry, what was the original question?
I think I forgot.
I told you I just go off on
Yeah.
tangents.
No. It was just like how your experience at Dark Horse helped you with your own personal recording, content for Instagram or YouTube, or working with drummers like me that wanted to come in and film a cover, or
Right.
some of their own content. Like, do you feel like it helped you a lot, or do you feel like even if you had never gone to school for audio engineering and you just buckled down, did as much research on the internet, taken some master classes and courses and stuff, do you feel like that would have been equally as, helpful? Or do you think school really was, kind of the main thing that helped?
Here's what Dark Horse gave me. Dark Horse gave me relationships, which is awesome. I still keep in touch with a good amount of people from those days. So it gave me the relationships. It gave me the initial knowledge that I needed to try and do what it was that I was going to do. And then the rest was up to me to expand on that, which is totally fine.
Yeah.
You're not going to get handouts in this industry.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'll be honest, I mean, I had a bit of an ego coming out of it because I was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to do this course and, I'm going to come out swinging and work on the next biggest record ever.
Yeah.
False. 6 years later. No, but it gave me the relationships and the knowledge that I needed. And see, my approach to Dark Horse, because it's like, then you got to figure out what you're going to do afterwards. And it's like, am I going to go the traditional route of, just a full production type of engineer or producer, whatever you want to call it. But for me, I was like, well, I'm a drummer. Drums is what I know the best.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm just obsessed with drums, period. So I wanted to make my niche be drums specific instead of a full production,
which
tracking
is smart,
guitars, bass, all
really
that.
smart, because not a lot of guys are specific on, maybe an instrument,
Yeah.
They are mixing engineers that, or producers that do a little bit of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it helps that you focus, on drums. And I think that's huge.
It can be cool because, there's not a whole lot of people doing that. But at the same time, it's so niche that it's very hard to find your pocket and, like, how to market yourself to people.
There's a smaller demographic for sure.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And I'm still trying to figure that out. I still have not made hardly anything in the recording side of things.
Yeah.
A lot of what I've done and a lot of what people see on social media has all been free, just promotional stuff that I've had homies like Jonathan come over.
For sure.
And just, we hang out, we track some drums and have a good time.
Yeah.
And it's meeting new people
Yeah.
that I think are sick and that I want to get to know better. And at the same time, it's giving me stuff to work on and hone my craft even more.
Yeah.
And you know, that's just how it goes. You know, I opened up our session not too long ago, and I'm like, wow, what the heck was I thinking back then?
And even then, I was impressed, and I'm still impressed
Yeah,
to
and
this
at the
day. It
time I
sounds
was
great.
stoked. I was
Yeah.
stoked, and now I would change everything I did.
Really?
Yeah.
Dude, that's the thing is like, even outside of audio engineering, like little things were so nitpicky. We look back on whether it's a session we tracked with tones or even what we would have played, or listening back to like some live records I've played on, I think, man, I would have done so much differently. And we critique ourselves so hard, but it's just a part of the game, you know,
Yeah.
for sure. But
Yeah, I don't know if it's a drummer thing exclusively, but
Yeah.
I am OCD and anal to the max.
yeah,
And to my own detriment. And I've tried to.
it's not always a bad thing either. It's
No.
just, it pushes us to be the best that we can be in the industry, and, you know, sets us apart from others.
But sometimes it does bite you in the butt and it sets you back because
Yeah.
then you, instead of just putting yourself out there and being true to yourself, then you start towing that line of like, now I'm tailoring stuff to
Yeah.
try and please people. And that's not what this is about. And that's not how I started out either.
So I want to ask you something that I get a lot of this question. For what you do, you are primarily a touring drummer, right? As far as what your career is, your income, would
Yep.
you say? Yeah,
My income is solely off the band at the moment.
exactly. So as far as where you're at right now, do you feel like going to college or going the college route is necessary or not? To play drums in a band, to tour, to travel.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Okay, why?
Um,
I agree as well. That is my answer, but I want someone else to explain, and I have a feeling we're gonna have the same
yeah.
thought process. But
I mean, I guess we're both living proof. First
yeah,
off,
I did go to college for music, but I dropped out
Yeah.
because I saw that I didn't need to.
Mm-hmm.
In my personal experience.
For me, school is for some people, and school just isn't
Yeah.
for others. For me, I was never that A+ student all the time. I got the grades I needed to get, but I couldn't sit in a chair for 9 hours a day listening to some person talk and, say all this stuff. Anyway,
Yeah.
if we're talking drums specifically, and you just look at what is out there today in terms of education, bro, go buy an online course.
Exactly. Subscribe to Drumeo.
Yeah.
Or
just go on YouTube.
Yeah.
There's enough on there.
free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What it really comes down to is how much do you want it?
Mm-hmm.
And look, I am not a very technical drummer. There is a lot I wish I could change about my drumming, and I wish I could have taken it way more seriously back in the day, because I feel like I've set myself back for where I'm at currently. That's a whole nother story. I'm not going to dive into that.
It's a whole other episode.
Yeah. But if you want it and it's something that you enjoy, you're going to find a way to do it.
Yeah.
Regardless if that's school or finding another route to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I've just seen too many people that I know go do the college route thing.
Yeah.
And then they're coming out with, how much thousands of dollars
Exactly.
in debt.
That's the kicker for me. And I was able to get most of it out of financial aid, but some of it I still had to cover and take out loans. And we're not like advocating for like not going to college by any means, but based off of our personal experiences and what we've gone through, I feel like if I could go back, I would still take private lessons, which I did in college, but I would do that privately outside of college with a great instructor. And then I would subscribe to some, masterclass, Drumeo, something online where I can learn all the fundamentals, music theory, how to read music. I don't even read music to this day, but
Me either.
if you want to go that route as well. There's just so many other ways that I could have gained that same knowledge, but I would have had money to invest in gear or more of those classes or so many other things that would help me further my, I guess, path in my career. And I think that was a huge thing for me, is looking back on, like, for anyone that is wondering, like, should I go to school? Should I go back to school? We're not saying don't do it. In our experiences, we didn't necessarily need to. It kind of just, it's different for every person. And I think for a lot of musicians or drummers specifically that are wanting to do kind of what we're able to do and what we're fortunate enough to be able to do, I think that route of college isn't necessary because there are other routes of education in other ways. For me, college, the main thing, I got gigs and I met people. That's what I got the most out of college.
Yeah.
I met so many people in school.
Well, it's like, think about it too. I grew up in like the band era of things where people were starting bands
I
at
remember
like
those days.
10, 12 years old. And I
Playing
mean,
in the
look
garage.
look at some of them now. And those dudes didn't go to college.
Yeah.
They've been grinding since, they were like in diapers still.
Dave Grohl doesn't know how to read music or play chords. He just listens and plays what sounds good, and he's one of the best musicians and songwriters of all time.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
Right. So again, we're not saying school isn't important or isn't a viable option if that's something you want to do. But yeah, I think you have to take that into consideration too, because at that point you're what? 18, 19 years old, coming out of high school.
Yep.
And then another 4 years of schooling.
Yeah.
Now, yeah, maybe you can go do local stuff or whatever around the town, depending on what your schedule's like. But, if you get offered to, get a gig like we have or something even bigger, well, what do you do then? It's either drop out or stick in school.
No, I'm going to finish. I'm going to go for another 2 years, and then, the gig, can you just hold off and wait for me and then offer it to me when I graduate? It's just, you got to weigh your options.
Yeah.
Like, and that, if that's something that you can't do, I completely understand, because I've been there. Like, if it's hard to make that decision, but that's part of being a, sideman. Like, a lot of times I have to decide, do I want to play with this artist or do I want to play with this artist? And I believe in both of them, but I also have to decide what is best for my career, what has more longevity, who's, what makes more sense for me in my career at the end of the day. And, you have to make a lot of tough calls and a lot of hard decisions in a really small amount of time in this field of work. And I think one of the first things people, at least for me, that I needed to decide was school or no school, and push touring and, trying to do music immediately out of high school, at least full time, because I was still doing it in school. But
for sure. Yeah. And even if you don't go the school route and say, all right, because I listened to yours and Kendall's episode, and you were talking about his background and all that. And, I've been here 7.5 years-ish. Only in the last, 2 years has anything of, substance really started to happen for me. Outside of that, I've worked some stupid jobs. And, I got to pay the bills.
Yep.
And sometimes those would hinder me, being committed or being able to take a gig, because you got to factor in, well, are you going to make any money at all?
Exactly.
And if you do, is it going to be enough to justify taking the time off of work or potentially getting fired for taking said gig? So it's a lot of, weighing and balancing, but ultimately, if this is what you want for your life, you're going to find a way to do it.
Yeah.
And It might not happen overnight. Most likely, it ain't gonna happen overnight.
Exactly.
But if you stick at it and you keep pushing forward, eventually something's gonna happen.
And that did happen to you. And I think it's a really cool story. What happened in your case is like something I dreamed about as a kid.
Halfway.
I wanted to be a part of a band, be a drum tech or a stage tech or a merch guy or something. You know, like I looked up to Luke Holland when I was like a teenager. And I was like, I'd love to be on tour with The Word Alive as his drum tech. And then like Luke Holland snaps his wrist and he's like, oh, I can't play for the next 2 weeks or something. And I'm like, it's my time to shine. And then I get called up, you know? So it wasn't exactly like that for you, but you were on the camp, you were working with the guys, and then things worked out to where they asked you to audition, and you auditioned, you got the part. And then one of the craziest things for me, I know for you as well, is one of your first shows, if I remember correctly, was Red Rocks.
It was it was very close to the beginning of me playing with them.
What was that like to like not, you know, you were here for 6 years at that point, and then you get this opportunity and you're playing Red Rocks within months of joining the band?
It still doesn't feel real. I mean, I don't even know how to describe it. You just have to experience it, I think.
Yeah.
And it's funny because, you know, I'm a very anxious drummer. And when I play, it doesn't even matter the size of the room. Like, I'm nervous.
Yeah.
More so because I'm like, well, I don't want to screw up. I don't want to drop a stick. I'm like, I put so much pressure on myself because I'm a perfectionist. And for some reason, that day just felt like a breeze.
Really?
Not to say that like I didn't give my all, but like
I
just felt calm up there for some reason. And it's crazy. So crazy. I mean, just walking the hallways downstairs and like you get to sign the stone wall. It's like,
dude,
what?
That's so cool.
Like next to some of the biggest people that you could ever imagine. It's insane. Dude.
I would think, I haven't played Red Rocks, but I would think it's a surreal experience.
Yeah.
You know, like I've worked my entire life to be able to, one, get paid to literally just hit drums for a living.
How crazy.
And two, I'm playing in one of the most iconic venues in the country.
Yeah.
One of the most beautiful venues in the country that so many people can only dream of, even just attending a concert, but playing on that stage is something else.
Yeah, it's bonkers.
Do you have any other venues that you can think of that, you know, whether in the country or anywhere in the world, like I have a bucket list, I want to play at this venue, I want to play, that you can think of?
Let's think. So outside of Red Rocks, we did the Opry this year.
Dude,
that was
saw
nuts.
That was crazy.
That was crazy. Legendary country music venue.
Was it for the K-Love Awards, Fan Awards, or Dove Awards or something, or was it something else?
No, it was actually on the Casting Crowns tour that we did to
Really?
open up the year. Yeah.
Oh.
So I think originally it was supposed to be at the Ryman, which still would have been sick because that's the original Opry.
Yeah.
But they ended up moving it to the Gaylord, which was sick. Never would have thought I would play there.
Yeah.
So that's crazy. Maybe we'll play Bridgestone at some point.
Dude.
That'd be sick.
Yeah. Any arena, really, like Madison Square Garden would be incredible.
Yeah.
Any major arena.
My home, like
stadium.
The Philadelphia 76ers and Flyers arena, like obviously I'd love to play there.
A home show in a sold out stadium or an arena or something, you know, some big venue that you grew up going to, whether going to concerts or watching sports, I feel like that would hit different as far as like, wow, as a kid, you know, I grew up coming here and now I'm like playing this stage.
Yeah, it's wild. I feel like I've conquered a good bit of the Nashville music venue stuff, but in terms of like hometown shows, there hasn't been a whole lot.
Yeah.
So hopefully that'll be coming at some point, but we'll just have to see.
It'll happen. I have confidence in you.
Dude, thanks.
Hey guys, I just wanted to take a second to thank the sponsor of today's episode. This episode is brought to you by To The Moon Creative. They provide the highest quality audio and video resources for all of your content. Whether it's a podcast or promotional ads for your business, they do it all. Not only do they record audio, but they also provide video and a killer space for you to film in. To the Moon Creative is located just outside of Nashville in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. You can find them on Instagram at TTM Creative or check out their website, ttmcreative.com. So, what are you rocking these days? We're both vertical artists. So, what gear are you using? Do you have, do you endorse any companies specifically, or do you have any companies where you're like, I don't endorse, or I don't have a deal with them, but I love their, their gear and I'm going to rock them until they offer me something? Or
Yeah.
what are you?
I ain't going in depth on sizes and all that. Go to my Instagram at Brian Clancy Drums.
Shameless plug.
So I'm endorsed by Vertical Drum Co. Red cymbals, drum tacks, snare weight, Top Bananas, which is a.
I haven't even heard of them.
I don't think I've told you about
Are
this.
they the drum rug?
Yeah, it's
things?
the Velcro.
I was gonna ask you about that. Okay,
Yeah, dude.
What is
It's
that
sick.
like? I just use gaff.
That's what I did too. And then this guy hit me up on Instagram. He's like, "Hey, do you want to try these out?" I was like, "Sure."
Do you like them?
Yeah, they're cool. It sucks though, because when you go to roll up the rug, they get screwed up. So got to figure out something
Maybe
for that.
there's a different, a part 2 or
Yeah,
2.0 version.
yeah. And also, we're not that big to where we can just keep our risers set up at all times. So I have to roll up the rug. So it's all right though.
Yeah.
They're still sick.
Yeah.
I mean, you sent me a bunch. I can honestly give you some to try out.
Sweet, bro.
It's literally
I'll
just
take it.
Velcro. Just
I saw that and I was like, that doesn't look like gaff tape. It looks like something else. And then I
Yeah.
saw you had tagged an account, and I was like, oh, I never heard of these guys.
yeah, he's only got he might have 200 followers or something.
Do you use baffles at all?
Yeah, not by choice for me.
You don't like them?
No,
Why?
because I feel like I'm in prison.
That's nothing compared to like an entire shield or an enclosed.
No.
I love using baffles because it allows me to not have to be enclosed or trapped in something, and it may not do as much, but it's still I think visually just helps front of house.
I
Kinda
do
just
agree.
Makes them feel better.
It's way better than a cage, but it
Yeah.
still stinks. It looks stupid, and I'm a very aesthetic person. Drums are loud. Get over it.
So okay, so with these companies,
Yeah.
I've also been asked, how does that work? Do you reach out to companies? Do they reach out to you? What has been your process? And I play these companies' gear,
Mm-hmm. I think in every scenario, I've been the one to reach out. It's rare that someone reaches out to me and is like, "Hey, do you want to try out this product or whatever?"
Yeah.
Usually, I gotta put myself out there, which is fine. I definitely don't feel like I'm on that level or that caliber of drummer that people are just gonna be like, "Hey, use my stuff for free." As dope as it would be, I just don't feel like I'm there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I've reached out to them, and
What does that look like as far as social media, or do you do an email? And how do you word it? What do you say? What do you send? How do you? Because essentially you have to sell yourself to the company. Hey, if you give me a discount or whatever, you scratch my back, I scratch your back. To my knowledge, that's kind of how it works, unless you're playing for Justin Bieber and then DW just throws you a free kit. We're not there, right?
Yep.
So what has been your approach to sell yourself to be able to partner with a company?
Well, for me, and a lot of the reason that I play what I play is because I believe in the company that I'm sponsoring.
That's huge, yeah.
And B, I think they actually make sick stuff.
Yeah. You've got to support it and love it because you're going to be playing that every day.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't like it and you're just doing it because you're getting a 50% off or free gear, but you don't enjoy it, it doesn't work. It doesn't make sense.
And that's the thing with the custom companies too. I mean, there's a handful of them out there. I used to play SJC, and I have nothing bad to say about their product. It's awesome. It's great. They just grew to become very big and corporatized, which
Yeah.
isn't a bad thing, but sometimes that takes a toll on the artists. If you're not at that top tier level,
Yeah.
you don't get that priority and that care that usually you would get. So I think when I stumbled across Vertical, they weren't even making drum kits yet. It was just
I remember that.
snare
Yeah.
drums.
It was just the snares.
And I think I found out because of Joey West from Disciple, and I saw him post about it. And I think I emailed, or I went to the website and, found the contact sheet or whatever, sent an email out. And they're like, heck yeah, man. Like, here's our endorsement sheet. Fill it out. You know, I'll get back to you. And for me, it was just very relationship based.
Yeah.
Because at this point in my life, when it comes to instruments and drums specifically, it's like, especially the custom stuff, a lot of these companies I feel are doing the same thing and making a lot of the same product or using the same materials. So once you weed that out, it's like, all right, what are you really looking for in a company?
Yeah.
Obviously great sounding stuff, but you also want someone that's got your back. And for me, Josh had my back from the start and took a chance on me. And it's incredible. I'm so blessed to be in the position that I'm in with them. And, sometimes I feel like he's way too good to me. Way too good.
Yeah, he treats people like family. Like I've been with, companies where they've been around for a minute. They have a good reputation in the industry as far as like the gear that they make and the stuff that they dish out, but like it takes 2 weeks to respond to an email. Like Josh, I can text and he responds almost instantly. Like he's gotten really busy, but he's good with like responding, if not like pretty quickly. He gets back to you within 24 hours or 48 hours, and like he's open to new concepts and ideas. And
exactly,
that's a huge thing, because you can have great gear, and especially with cymbals. If I love my cymbals, but I crack one on the road and I don't have a rep to reach out, like, hey, can I get a 22-inch delivered to the next venue in the next city in 2 days? And he's like, yeah, I'll overnight it, no charge. Like, I feel like I'm on top of the world when I experience something like that, and I never had that until this year. And it's just crazy. And you have huge companies that you don't have that luxury because their customer support or the artist relations isn't top tier like that. And I think those are the two main things, is like 110% back and believe in what you play, but then also have a solid team of people or a good rep that you can trade back and forth with to be able to like help you and make. I mean, this is our career, this is what we do for a living, so we need to have things kind of set in place to make our jobs a little bit easier, and it takes stress off. So
absolutely it makes. Yeah, I told you the story about how I got my kit. I mean, Josh worked his butt off to make that thing happen.
Quick turnaround time for
super
the new position.
Quick turnaround time,
unheard of,
and
from other companies.
He just smashed it, and even went above and beyond. So, yeah, man. I guess the original question was, how do I,
yeah, we get off.
But
you just send an email. Yeah. You send an email and social media, other things. And
you just reach out and put yourself out there.
And more times than not, you may not get a response, or they may just say, we're not looking right now. It just, you're going to get some rejection.
Me and Andrew had a talk recently on a phone call. And, I mean, look at him now. He's almost got 100,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Dude.
The dude is just crushing the game right now.
He had hundreds like 2 years ago.
every video he does is sponsored by Sweetwater.
Yeah.
The dude
That's the
gets
dream.
new gear
That's
every
the dream.
freaking day.
Ugh.
But he tells me all the time, like, he'll like send a message to these companies asking for gear, or like, you know, being like, hey, can I get one of your products? And they're like, or if I do content for you, you know, what do you think about sending me something? They're like, oh, gee, we never thought of that. I'm like, what?
Genius.
But he seems to have way more luck with that than I do. I don't
Yeah.
know. I feel like I hit companies up and then I get ghosted. But
Yeah.
whatever.
Well, he's blown up, and you had a little bit of that as well. When we first met, you had we had the same amount of followers, roughly, like around 3,000, I think, and you're at about 10K right now?
Almost.
And I know neither of us are huge on social media because we would just rather play.
Yeah.
But I think it's safe to say that social media has become a big part of your image, your marketing, what you can show people you can do, or what service you can provide. A little bit
Yeah.
of a look into your personality without meeting you in person just yet.
Mm-hmm.
So what was that like? Because when we had met, you were on social media, and then you ended up taking like a month or 2 or 3. I remember you just deleted everything. You went off of social media for I can't remember how long, and then you came back and like hit it hard, and you grew your platform. How did that go? What did you do?
I don't know how any of that happened. It's a miracle. It's at what it's at, and it's great. I think a lot of it had to do with Andrew's video, doing the studio tour.
Yeah.
That helped out big time. Saw a big boost there. And then I just think I was consistently posting and putting out content that people, I guess, were interested in. And, you know, it's grown to what it is. See, the thing about social media for me is, like, that always used to be my argument was, oh, well, I have to have social media because I have to market myself, blah, blah, blah. And, like, it's like what I was saying earlier. Like, I really haven't made much money on the recording side of things in the music industry. So is it really that important and that big of a deal to worry about, oh, well, how many followers do I have?
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. I don't know. That's that's a subjective question.
Yeah.
And honestly, I've been thinking lately I might take another break.
It's healthy for, your mind and the soul. I believe like social media is just, it can be pretty toxic, even if we're trying to use it for business purposes, to help market or whatever. It can be a lot for sure. And there's a lot of pressure that we can put on ourselves. Like, I have to release content consistently to grow my platform, and I have to do this and I have to do that. And it's just like, man, we shouldn't have to do that.
It turns into work when Instagram and social media literally used to just be, I just went to get ice cream at Dairy Queen or just some random stuff. And now it's just like everybody takes it so seriously. And at least in the drumming community, it can get very competitive. And everybody's got eyes on somebody, and you always feel like you're getting judged.
I finally caved and made a TikTok maybe about 6 months ago. And I'd, go down to the basement. I'd spend like 2 to 3 hours on a video, like a 30-second cover, and get like, I have like 200 followers, if that. And I'd get like 8 views on a video and like 2 likes. I posted a video. I was bored one day, and I posted a video of me just walking down the basement, and that's it. And then I had captioned, how people will say on videos, like, I took a picture of myself the last 10 years. This is what my transformation is.
Yeah.
I did that, but I had captioned, taking a picture of myself for the next 2 days to see the transformation. And then I literally just cut to like a half-second clip of me one day and me another day.
Yeah.
And that's it. It was like maybe a 9-second video that took 2 minutes to make, and it got like 4 million views.
Whew.
And I was so pissed because all of my other videos, I spent hours and hours and hours rehearsing, getting tones right, EQing, mixing my drums, doing a cover, and I get 8 views. I
See, if I post anything
I don't get it.
non-drum
I don't get it.
related, like if I post my face or just like a picture of myself, nope, nothing. But a lot of that too, just I don't know. I get very in my head, and like early on in the social media days, I had people give me crap for posting selfies or whatever, and not, of course, let it get in my head.
You can do
So
whatever
that-
you want, but it's hard to.
Yeah, I mean that plays into why I don't do that either. But also, it's like if I do strictly use my social media accounts as a form of business for me, well,
Yeah.
then there's just some things like my personal life that I just keep off of social media
Yeah.
because, not everybody needs to see that stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, we have lives as well, and I'm not trying to make it seem like we're influencers and like everyone's in our business. It's not the case. I
No.
think a big part of it is just the pressure we put on ourselves. We have a few minutes left, and I have 2 more things I want to touch on.
Let's do it.
What? It's the coolest thing in the world to be able to play drums, be on a tour bus, and travel
Mm-hmm.
and get paid for it. It's so cool. It's like, and I still can't believe that we both, 2 years ago we had just met and we were like, I can't wait to play drums for a living, and now we're both in that position.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a lot of people ask, what does life on the road look like? So just really quickly, walk me through. You're on a bus, you're on tour, you wake up. What does your day-to-day look, or like what does a day in the life of you being on tour with We Are Messengers look like in a 1 minute explanation?
Sure. I wake up in the morning. Usually brush my teeth. Maybe make some coffee. Then I'll usually head inside the venue and start getting set up. Depending on the tour that we're on, sometimes my drums are, bolted down to the riser. So I'll set up, and I'm anal, so I notice every little thing. So I'll just be in there for hours. By the time I know
Tweaking
it's
the angle of your rack tom.
Yes.
And yeah.
my ride isn't
Yeah.
at a 45-degree angle. So I'm in there tweaking. Then, depending on the day, maybe we'll have a sound check. And then, usually by that time, it's like dinner time, or maybe I got a couple hours to just chill. So I'll either just hang on the bus, or I usually like to go and like walk around wherever we're playing. Like if we're in a town, just go walk around the town, maybe
Yeah.
stop in some shops. Or if we're in the middle of nowhere, you make do with what you got.
I'm telling you, man, this is the rock star life that everyone is expecting, right?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the time you're playing venues like in the middle of a cornfield, and
Yeah.
you have nowhere to go.
Tour life is definitely different than what I thought it would be. And I've been touring for 11 years now professionally. I would say the last year and a half has been like the highest I've ever experienced. I barely experienced a bus for the first time within a year ago.
Yeah.
And leading up to that point, I always thought there was going to be not more to it, because I'm definitely thankful for what I do. But there's a lot of downtime, more downtime than I would have expected, even though you're working. There's downtime that you don't expect, and then all of a sudden, so much happens at once, and then you're working nonstop.
Yeah.
But it's not, it's not always the easiest thing in the world. So,
No.
you
And
know.
if you think about it, really, I mean, like, yes, most of us have like side gigs or whatever, or we try to keep ourselves busy. But if you really think about it, most of the time, your main job is like 35 minutes or an hour a
Yeah,
night.
exactly.
And you wait all day just
Yeah.
for that to happen. And then it happens, and you go to bed
Yeah.
and repeat.
That's the life.
It's crazy.
Okay, well, we're gonna end with one more thing. What do you want to say to any? I know this is a podcast for drummers, but any musician in general that might be listening, or somebody that wants to specifically tour full time, whether you're a drummer, guitar player, music director, front of house engineer, I don't know, somebody that wants to be on a bus, city to city, playing incredible venues. What do you want to say to them as far as like, encouragement, if you will?
Just keep grinding.
Mm.
I I mean, it's really that simple.
Yeah.
Just keep grinding. I'm sure we've talked about this. Sometimes I feel like I have imposter syndrome because I feel like I've skipped a
Yeah.
lot of steps compared to most people. But at the same time, I am very grateful for where I'm at.
Yeah.
And I know I have worked my butt off for it. And you posted a story recently that was sort of talking about that topic, and I'm like,
Yeah.
man, I really needed to hear that. And my girlfriend tells me that all the time.
Yeah.
And it's harder when I'm off the road because there's just so much downtime.
Yeah.
And you just get stuck in your head. But man, sometimes you just got to step back and look at where you're at and be like, wow, I'm really doing this.
Yeah.
Regardless what tier you're on, it doesn't
Exactly.
matter. Just the fact that I say I have an income and pay my bills making music,
That's huge.
I mean, I've already won.
Yeah.
I've already won.
Yeah.
I never thought this would happen. I mean, I always wanted it to, but never really thought it would become reality. And there's been plenty of times I've wanted to pack up everything I have and go back home. But something has kept me here. And, now I'm in the position that I'm in. And it's great. It's great. But now I'm trying to figure out, all right, where do I go from here?
Yeah.
And that's always been me. Whether it's drums, music, just anything. I'm always striving for the next thing. So just keep at it, man. You never know what's going to happen. You never know who you're going to meet. I mean, look at today. I'm hanging out with Tom Golly again.
Old friends reunited.
And he's where it all really started.
Yeah.
So, man, just keep at it. And if you love it, something's going to happen for you.
Yeah, but man, I just got to say, it would have resulted in where you're at anyway, whether you played for me or not. But,
You're
dude,
too kind.
awesome.
So kind.
Just so cool. Thanks for the credit. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You
man.
don't have to use this if you don't want, but dude, seriously, like back when you played for me, like all you ever did was work and want to get better and want to get better and want to get better. It was inspiring to be around, and people noticed. People noticed, like, dude, this guy's skilled. Like, everywhere the handful of shows you played for me, people were always like, "Who's that guy on the drums? Who is he?" And honestly, I've had really good drummers in the past, like with me since. It's never happened again. No one's ever been like, yo, who's your drummer? Who is that guy? I don't think you've landed yet. I think you're still on your onward trajectory, my guy. So keep
I
doing your
appreciate
thing.
that.
So
I
kind.
appreciate that.
Such genuine words.
See, and I do appreciate that, but naturally my brain goes, that's nice,
Nah,
but
it's that imposter syndrome.
yeah,
But I
it's
want to
that
add to
imposter
what you said, and you said keep grinding, and that is true. But once you finally get to where you're at a spot where you're finally doing music and you're finally making money doing what you love, don't stop grinding.
Yeah,
Like just
no.
because you're like, oh, I can pay bills this month and I can afford whatever. Don't stop grinding. Like that grind has to be there, that passion has to be there, that motivation has to be there for the rest of your career.
Absolutely.
And that's just as important as the grind that you had before you made it.
Mm-hmm.
That's very important.
Because this could all go away tomorrow, for all we know.
Exactly.
And it literally happened.
It happened with COVID, and even without COVID, we're all replaceable, and I remind myself that every day. Like,
Absolutely.
no matter how good of a drummer you are, you're replaceable. And that's just how it is. And so just being thankful for where you're at and continue to grind, continue to work, and that'll get you so many cool places. And so, yeah.
Absolutely, dude.
Yeah. Well,
Hell.
dude, that's it for this episode, Brian. Appreciate it.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you so much for coming on. Where can people find you on social media or, all your stuff?
I'm
Plug
just going
away.
to give out my Instagram because that's my main thing. And I have my YouTube link to it. So it's at Brian with an I, Clancy, drums. And that's it.
That's very simple. I love that. And I'll put it down somewhere on the video. But, yeah, Brian's such a cool guy. Reach out to him. Send him some DMs if you have any questions. He's usually really good with responding. Such a great dude. But, yeah, dude, that's it for today.
Love you, bro.
Dude, love you too, brother. I'll have you again in a few episodes.
Okay.
And we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.